Asuna and Kirito were partaking in the night sky of Aincrad. As Asuna grumbled about having never seen falling stars, Kirito commented that there were a few decent places to see, and hence they made a guarantee to see meteor showers over a year after the fact. By April 2026, an increased reality gadget named Ogma and its games, particularly Ordinal Scale, were rapidly becoming famous among the majority. The game's venerated image YUNA had likewise acquired a ton of notoriety. On April 24th, Yuuki Asuna, Ayano Keiko, and Shinazaki Rika played an R-Pac-Man 256-like game in Center Mode in Wagneria Cafe. By clearing the game, the young ladies procured free cakes. But the cake Rika ate surpassed her day-to-day calorie limit. Minutes after, Rika made a virtual stage for Keiko, convincing her to sing one of YUNA's tunes in the shopping center, at a reference to blade craftsmanship web-based during a following discussion. Keiko reviewed talk about sword workmanship online supervisors showing up in Ordinal Scale. Along these lines, they convinced Kazuto to drive one of them with his bike. Kazuto and Asuna headed to the area of an impending fight, where they met with Tsuboi Ryuteru and his society individual. The second the clock struck 21, Kagachi the samurai ruler, produced. At that point, Yuna entered the scene by means of a robot and, reporting the beginning of the fight, started singing. During the fight, a player terminated a rocket at the chief. The manager evaded it, flew towards YUNA. IG, the second position player of Ordinal Scale, joined the fight and diverted the shot, making it hit the manager, all things being equal. As the battle proceeded, Asuna saw an opening and attacked the chief. The second Asuna passed IG. He murmured the term switch. After a second, Asuna crushed the chief, consequently turning into the most significant player of the fight, which procured her a kiss from YUNA and an additional 10,000 focuses. In the consequence of the manager battle, an individual from Furinkazan saw a progression of pop-ups. Similarly, as the man recovered the thing, he was defied by IG. As IG was radiating aggression towards him, the man attracted his blade groundwork for a battle. In the meantime, in Asuna and Kirito's Timberland house in Alfheim on the web, Asuna, Klein, and Kirito told Agile, Lifa, Lisbeth, Silica, and Sinon about their Ordinal Scale manager fight. The next night on April 25th, Asuna got a greeting from Ryuteru to go along with them for a supervisor fight close to her home. When Asuna showed up at the scene minutes after the fact, she discovered that one of the individuals from Furinkazan had become inaccessible. In this way, she continued to the combat zone alone while the society chose to stay outside to sit tight for him. As the fight with the chief and an off-the-cuff YUNA show started, one more manager abruptly brought forth close to the individuals from Furinkazan. Albeit the organization was faring great against the chief, they were out of nowhere attacked by IG, who handicapped all of Ryuteru's guildmates with combative techniques. Ryuteru unequipped his Ogma and endeavored to punch him, however this brought about his arm being gotten and broken by IG. In the wake of putting Ryuteru's Ogma on him once more, IG offered the harmed man to the supervisor while holding him by the neck, in this way permitting the manager to overcome him. In the first part of the day of April 26th, while holding up at the scene of the past supervisor battle for Asuna to show up for their date, Kazuto was persuaded by Yui to prepare for impending Ordinal Scale fights. While rehearsing, he unexpectedly saw a hooded young lady right close to him. The young lady pointed in a particular course, mumbling something unintelligible prior to vanishing. Asuna showed up at the scene. In this way, the threesome made a beeline for a close-by eatery, where Asuna shared her doubt that IG might have been Nautilus, a lower positioning individual from the Knights of the Blood and Sword workmanship on the web. In their discussion, Yui out of nowhere intruded, illuminating them that she had found something. Yui detailed her finding that the produce points of the old Aincrad supervisors in the city lined up with the places of their manager rooms in Aincrad. Asuna, Lisbeth, and Silica showed interest in joining the following manager fight, while Kirito showed no interest in taking part. That night, Asuna, Lisbeth, and Silica came to Yabisu Nursery Castle. During the fight, Asuna saw that IG was available at the war zone. Consequently, she moved toward him to affirm whether he was Nautilus. IG mentioned her to quit utilizing that name, showing her that he was presently known as IG. When under 3 minutes stayed till the finish of the fight, a mythical beast like Pina showed up on the combat zone. Silica moved toward the beast. In any case, amazingly, the winged serpent abruptly changed into Dorzel the disordered drake, escaping the manager's assaults. Silica incidentally slammed into IG, who pushed her back. Silica was going to be struck by the mythical serpent, when Asuna unexpectedly safeguarded her from the assault. Rather than hitting Silica, the mythical serpent cut Asuna, then making her break down the second a yellow circle was sent off from her Ogma. IG entered short proximity, pointing his sword at Kirito's throat. The winged serpent intruded on their contention similarly as the fight clock struck 0, making the two supervisors leave the combat zone. Woken by a bad dream at around 2, Asuna called Kazuto, requesting that he come to their log house. There, she uncovered that she had been losing recollections of her time in Sao, making Kazuto become stressed. Kazuto carried Asuna to specialist Kurahashi to have her checked. The specialist uncovered that he had found proof of a sweep focusing on unambiguous recollections to have been performed on her cerebrum. Kurahashi additionally educated them that comparative occurrences had happened to others. Yudo saw a photograph of a young lady on the teacher's work area similarly as he was leaving the room. Outside, Kazuto called Kikuoka Seijiro to inquire about the young lady, and subsequently found that the teacher had a little girl named Shijimura Yuna, who had lost her life. Kazuto got a call from Asuna, with whom he then, at that point, organized a visit at her home, as it was generally near the organization. At night, while strolling through a recreation area, Kazuto was moved toward by the hooded young lady from behind and out of nowhere shipped to a puzzling spot in his ordinal scale outfit. There, Kirito experienced the young lady, whom he currently perceived as Yuna. After the young lady informed him that he expected to build his positioning in ordinal scale assuming he wished to recover Asuna's recollections, Kazuto arose in the recreation area. Following this disclosure, Kirito started overcoming a large number of supervisors, until he arrived at rank 9 after overcoming Wahila the Dark Wolf. At that point, he was drawn nearer by Ig, who welcomed him to come to YUNA's live show for Asuna's recollections. On April 29, 2026, YUNA's live show was going to be held at the new public arena. Having left his companions at their seats by utilizing a washroom excuse, Kazuto went to the arena's underground parking garage to defy Ig. In the interim, noticing the show, teacher Shijimura deplored how his choice to get Yuna a nerve gear and a duplicate of sword workmanship online prompted the deficiency of his girl. He clarified for a dream of Kayaba Akihiko that Yuna had experienced hopeless mind harm due to the nerve gear, yet guaranteed that if he would assemble recollections of her from other blade workmanship online players and wire the parts together, he would have the option to resuscitate Yuna as a man-made reasoning. Meanwhile, during his fight with Ig, Kirito derived that the piece of hardware on Ig's scruff was the wellspring of his fight ability. When Ig was effortlessly crushed minutes after the fact, Kirito was educated that Ig and teacher Shijimura were wanting to examine the recollections of all the Sao survivors assembled at the show scene to restore Yuna. Having realized this, Kazuto raced into the show region, where various Sao managers had generated after YUNA's show while he had been battling Ig. As the mayhem went on in the show setting, Yuna moved toward teacher Shijimura trying to prevent him from going on with his arrangement. As the high recurrence examined that Shijimura planned to direct would almost certainly bring about the passings of the people in question, ready to try and follow a similar way as Kayaba Akihiko on the off chance that it would resuscitate his girl. Hearing this, Yuna vanished. The beast was going to bargain a disaster. Yuna showed up, making an obstruction to capture the assault. While obstructing the beast's assault, Yuna informed Kirito that a cerebrum harming output would be performed when the emotive counter shown on a screen in the scene arrived at 10,000. Yuna argued Kirito to enter the Ruby Castle and rout the last manager of Aincrad, Lisbeth, Silica, and Sinon. Kirito gave Asuna the ring he had purchased as a present for her as a guarantee to securely return. In full dive, the gathering arrived at the Ruby Royal residence on the 100th floor of Aincrad, where the first last manager of blade craftsmanship on the web and manifestation of the Radius promptly drew in them in fight. Right when every one of them were immobilized by the chief and Kirito was going to struck by the manager's bar assault, the supervisor was suddenly stumbled by Asuna, who had quite recently arrived at the front line. Before the manager could start another assault, Yui and Lifa unexpectedly entered the field, bringing players from both the Elfheim on the web and Weapon Hurricane online as fortification. Before Kirito's gathering got back to fight, Yui stacked their saved game information from the Sao server, as well as Sinan's GGO save information as a little something extra, permitting them to battle the supervisor in their old gear, with every one of the players going after the supervisor at the same time, with Kirito managing the last assault. Minutes after the supervisor was vanquished, a sword that framed in the air arrived into Kirito's palms. Back at the arena, similarly as Yuna was going to be struck by the lethal grass cutter, a virtual projection of Kirito, presently having turned into the highest level player of ordinal scale. As the emotive counter started diminishing, Shijimura Tetsuhiro saw a picture of his little girl, letting him know that she would continuously accompany him in his recollection. Not long before Kikuoka Seijiro and his men found teacher Shijimura in the repercussions of the fight, Yuna uncovered that the information for her body depended on the assets of Sao's last chief. Prior to vanishing, Yuna returned Asuna's recollections.